if my story can help anyone, then that's good. That's a good thing. And that's me being responsible for my suffering, is to help other people through theirs. And I think that's where it starts, bro. You know, we need to help one another because life's hard. Life's terribly hard. And we've been indoctrinated into a certain society, how we should live, you know, with media and TV and stuff like that. And to me, that's just bullshit, you know, and I don't buy into that.
Hi everyone, my name's Mael Backhausen, and this is another episode of Stokely, a creative endeavour to ensure we continue to connect, listen, learn and evolve through the art of conversation. Now, as customary, and because it should be done, I'd like to thank the traditional custodians upon the lands which this podcast was created, and I'd like to pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. And I do that with full respect. I know that this may seem somewhat like a tick of the box exercise, but it really isn't. Like, I believe that this is something that should be acknowledged no matter what day, no matter what time. You know, if we're out on a run or going for a walk, we're just driving down a country road or a bloody highway, like, we can still pay respects to what happened in the past. And I think it's really important because it gives us a whole different appreciation and perspective upon the lands which we just travel and, you know, use to live life to its fullest. So I just want to put that out there because, you know, I don't want it to sound like I'm just doing that to tick the box. It's a really important thing to us here at the podcast, and whether it is to you too, well, I'm just going to keep doing it because I feel it's right. Now, we've done 6 episodes of Stokely, and I really am blown away by what people have said and how some people have reacted. You know, there's been so many good things being said, and I really, really appreciate it. So does my good friend Dougie, who's helping me out on the podcast. And, you know, it's really hard sometimes to get that real critical feedback that you might need. And I definitely got some about the intros. So if some people have fallen asleep through the intros, then I really am sorry about that. I am going to definitely try to work on it. And I guess this is the first one where I'm going to try and do that. So, you know, it's a work in progress. It's a work in progress. What can I say? You know, today's conversation with Josh Komen is incredibly real. It's incredibly open. It's incredibly deep. Josh lives his life by truth, courage, and wisdom. And he is an absolutely incredible person. And I mean that with as much emphasis as I can put on it. It's taken me a long time to put together an intro for this podcast. I've sat in my room thinking about how to summarize it and how to put it out there so people listen to an intro and then get intrigued enough to listen to the story of Josh's journey. But I've come to the conclusion that it's really hard to do that because of what this conversation means to me personally, and of just the sheer enormity of what Josh can provide to us all in terms of life lessons. Because what Josh has been through is just nothing short of absolutely incredible. You know, at the age of 23, Josh was about to go on to represent New Zealand at the next Commonwealth Games. And then he was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia. And it changed his life forever, you know. It took him to the brink of despair, and it changed him into a completely different person. And it's a story that I feel like, especially in the times we're facing now, everyone needs to hear it. It does, as I mentioned, get quite graphic and quite deep, and we do cover the topics of suicide and depression, so I do want that to be known, and I do want people to understand that this can be quite confronting, and if anyone does need to seek help for that, then I highly encourage it. And if you ever do need to seek help for things like that, it's not a bad thing. Many people are in that situation, and it's something that we all need to face as humans sometimes. I would really like to ask everyone one favor whilst listening to this podcast. Please give it your time. Please give it your attention. It is something that I hold so much appreciation for having the opportunity to do it. And Josh's story, as I mentioned before, is really just something that will strike a chord with your heart, and it will definitely make you have a different perspective on the way we go about life and appreciating all the small things and all the big things that we have. So, without giving too much away of this conversation, besides the fact that it's incredibly honest and incredibly moving, I'd just like to say again, please sit back and have a listen. I really don't, again, I don't have the words to say thank you enough to Josh for being up for having this conversation. He's an absolutely beautiful human. He has a heart of gold, and I know that term can get thrown around, but Josh really has a heart of gold. He's an absolutely beautiful person. So please let this conversation inspire you and move you. Let it seep down into your heart and let it be a guiding light for the rest of your life, because I have no doubt that it has the potential to do that. And Josh is one person that I'm incredibly grateful to know, and I'm incredibly stoked to be able to share this conversation with you, because by the end of it, I think you'll agree with everything I've said about Josh and his journey. So thanks a lot for listening. And please, if you really do have a resonance with this podcast and this conversation particularly, I would really highly encourage you to share it, because again, at this point in time, with what is happening in the world, I believe that these kind of conversations and a story like Josh's needs to be heard, and it needs to be shared, and people need to, be a part of it. So I really hope you enjoy it as much as I did. There were tears, there was laughter, and afterwards, I personally was just taken aback again by the strength, humility, courage, acceptance, the compassion, the empathy, and just the love that Josh shares for this world and everything that his journey has given him, and everything it's taken away as well. So thanks again, enjoy, and looking forward to hearing what you think.
Josh, how are you, man?
Yeah, good, thanks, bro. How are you?
I'm great, dude. I'm great.
Yeah,
dude.
Whereabouts are you hiding? Are you in a cabin out of far on the top of a ridge?
Man, you and I both know that that's where I should be.
That's where it looks like you are, bro.
Should's a dangerous word, man, but that's my kind of place. A lot of people are kind of pretty scared and anxious about this whole thing that's going down right now with the pandemic, but you're kind of someone that needs to really take care of what you're exposing yourself.
I'm the same as everyone, bro, man. I've been taking responsibility for my health, and my health is good.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm not playing the victim in this, saying that I'm no different from anyone else. I'm just the same as everybody else. So what happens to everyone happens to me. Yeah. So
if you were to say actually catch this virus, would you be in a situation where you might suffer from it in some way a little bit more than others, or would you react to it the same, you reckon?
Okay, let's talk about it on paper versus my immune system. On paper, a doctor would say yes. For me, in my head, I say no. That's how I see it. It's basic common sense. Maybe I'll just have the slight symptoms and that, but my immune system's amazing, man. What I've taken control of my health, physical, spiritual, emotional health, man. And people don't take that into account. They just look at my numbers on paper of what I've been in my past, but I'm not a victim of what I've been through. I am who I am now, So people don't see that, bro.
Mate, I tell you what, you are an absolute fucking legend. That's why.
Nah, man. Everyone's a legend around me has helped me, bro.
Yeah, that is true. Like, for sure. But I mean, this is what I mean, to hear that just makes me speechless. You know, I just 100% like absolutely good on you for having that perspective. I mean, it's got you to where you are.
The only reason I move out is the fact that if I did get it, and people will go, "Oh, look what you did to poor Josh on Sybil," and you can't put that on her because people look at it that way.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. So that was the more deciding factor around.
Yeah. That's and I don't want people's judgment inflicted upon her, and she's more sensitive than me.
Yeah. So that being your partner, your fiance now. Have you gone through with a little wedding or?
No, not yet. That's next year. So hopefully the borders have opened up by then, bro. So we can have a wedding.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's going to be a magical day.
Yeah, no, it'll be a special day, bro.
So, bro, thanks for. I mean, I'm just stoked to have a chat with you more than anything, regardless of whether we recorded or not. I'm just like, it's great to reconnect. I haven't seen you for a while, man.
Yeah, man, you've been doing being quite busy too. Getting right into the ice baths and things like that. So,
bro, that is just food for the soul. That is, you and I both know that everyone should get into the cold water more often.
You can't even explain it. You have to experience it to understand it.
Yeah.
As Wim says, feeling is understanding. And for me, when I heard about cold therapy, like, fuck off. Like, the fuck's that going to do? But then you feel it, what goes on afterwards, man, inside your body. It's just incredible.
Oh, I've heard it really well described as it's exercise for your insides, but like
that's a good analogy. Yeah, I like that.
Like once you really get into it and you really experience it, I mean, exercise is not even a apt word to use to describe it. It's like getting a beautiful massage on the inside of your body, and
yeah, if you want to put it that way, but it's something extraordinary that unfolds within yourself, man. And it's just an absolute, they talk about game changers. Well, this is the game changer. Just jump in a cold bath.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so, and breathe.
Just breathe. My man, so me and a great friend are putting together this podcast, and it's in large, it's really to make sure that we help encourage conversation. Writing letters has become a lost art of communication, and the way the world is trending, there's a real chance that we lose that ability to communicate through conversation. Something that I think is really important. And you have, there's no secret behind your story. You've got an incredible story, and your willingness to share it and your willingness to put it out there is also something that I look up to as an incredible example of how you should be in this world. So I guess in saying that, I just want to again say thanks for being up for a chat. And
no worries, man. You're a great man. So I don't mind talking to good people.
That's awesome, man. Thanks so much. So yeah, I think, in all honesty, I think the last time I saw you would have been at the at your book launch that you did in Melbourne.
Shivers, man. It's about a year ago, eh?
It's a long time. Yeah, it's absolutely a long time. It definitely feels like a long time, but I tell you what, that's probably one afternoon that I'll never forget. There's not many times that I can recall in my history that I've stood there and just uncontrollably had like tears coming out of my face. And being at that book launch really put me in that situation where I was just like, oh my Lord, like I don't even have control over my emotion right now and my ability to express it. That was a pretty incredible time. Dude, do you mind if I ask you to just go ahead and share the story of your journey like you've like you've done in your book and like you've done on a number of other great conversations before? I mean, you are someone who's always been pretty open and honest. You definitely don't put up a shield.
No, you can't, man. I'm here to tell the truth, and that's about it, bro.
You've got, I feel like you've really embraced that too.
Yeah. No, it's a big part of my life. It's a bit of a mantra that I say to myself every day, every part of the day, man. It's truth, courage, and wisdom. This is what I stand for, and this is who I am. They're the three things that keep repeating in my head. Why am I alive? And it's truth, courage, and wisdom, mate.
It was, the very first time I met you after hearing about you through a friend of ours, Ruth. I'd been out, in Europe and other parts of the world, running around mountains and always hearing about Josh. Like I always had, I'd get these stories about Josh from Ruth, and I'd always just be like, man, this guy sounds incredible, and what he's been through is just, it's making me appreciate my life even more. And I've never met this guy. And then when I first got the opportunity to meet you in Melbourne at your bro's house, you just came up and you were like, hey, bro, and you just gave me a hug. And I was like, whoa, who is this guy? And then we just hung out in the living room, and I was absolutely blown away by your ability to be open, honest, and just accepting of my points of view and being really open and vulnerable about your own points of view, which, when you first meet, especially like two guys meeting for the first time, it's never really like, it's never really that much of an open experience from a lot of my history and meeting people around the world. So I really appreciate that about you. And I just want to thank you for being that person, man.
Oh, it's no worries, man. Through my suffering and that, I've understood that everybody has a past and everyone's gone through something in their life. So for me, there's no judgment there. It's understanding who that person is and unfolding, opening up the box and integrating two people together. So I've no judgment on anyone who they are. I want to understand who they are, and where they've come from, and we can find a common path to go forward together.
Oh, mate, I tell you what, you're a special person in this world.
Because we're all different in this life, man, and our environments shaped us on who we are, but yet we have a connection that we stand on this earth with our own 2 feet together, and we share that. So I think we need to understand that we are different, but we need to understand that we are similar as well, and our differences define us, but yet our similarities shape us. So seeing someone, I always present myself and let them know who I am, and that I'm open to talk to them despite their background, because everyone does have a background, and it may not be perfect because life's not perfect, and mine certainly hasn't indeed. And, my whole face and physical attributes have fully changed, man. So if I can just break that down and just show a person who I am instead of hiding behind the corner and trying to talk myself into a different direction, then I'm not being my truthful self.
Absolutely, bro. I think, it's really important to be aware that every time we meet someone, we basically have like 3 choices. We can be neutral in the situation, we can be negative in the situation, or we can have a positive influence. So if I was to, bump into you at the line in the shops, and I could say something that might have some sort of a negative energy around it. I could be like, oh, hurry up, or could you please, or could you get out of the way, and approach that. And you leave that experience and that you leave that moment feeling negative because you're like, oh, dude, what's up with that dude? Something up his ass. And I leave that experience being like, God, I wish that guy just hurried up and got out of my way. Or we could be neutral. Like you walk up, I walk up, we just stare at each other for a second awkwardly, and then we both walk away and just like, and nothing of it. Or we have definitely all in control of also being able to have somewhat of a positive connection in that time. And you could just walk up to me and say, give me a nod and say, hey man, how you doing? Have a good day. And I do the same for you. And then we go our separate ways. But like, the reason I'm saying this is that I feel like you've got that in you now, where you have that awareness and that respect for every situation that you approach, and having that compassion for someone else and giving them that time of day that everyone deserves, because we all are, we're all sentient beings on this planet, just trying to live, man.
Just trying to live, and that's it. And all it takes is a smile, bro.
Universal language, man. Yeah.
Yeah. It is that simple sometimes, man. We don't even have to talk sometimes, actions speak louder than words sometimes. And it's just a thumbs up or a smile and just a raise of the eyebrows, And it's okay. Just creating that person a comfortable space to be themselves and just go about their day.
Sure.
Yeah.
Again, man, you just nailed it. Like that's exactly as simple as it needs to be.
Like, because we can get caught up in our own ideas and our heads and stuff, but we've got to realize too that there's a lot going on outside ourselves, and we've got to acknowledge that as well. So if we can step outside of that and just make the area more comfortable for them, then your day goes a lot more easier as well, because you're not got caught up in someone else's stigma, essentially, just because they're having a bad day.
Through what experience have you learnt all this?
Well, man, it's been a long time of learning. It's been a long time, and it will never end. But it's basically when I was first diagnosed with cancer, and that's when the real learning started unfolding. Essentially, my whole worldview kind of got taken out under my feet. If we want to go back to the start, I was one of New Zealand's fastest 800-meter runners. I was addicted to running, and I had my own isolated identity, who I was, I would say. And I was trapped in my own thought process, thinking I was limitless. I could do anything. But the truth was humans are limited. And I found that out by getting a diagnosis of cancer. I was strong, I was fast, I was fit, and I had all the physical attributes of a stereotypical strong man, and a lot of people envied who I was, and I loved who I was, and I did. And I always appreciated what I could do. I wasn't cocky or anything like that. That was never who I was, but I was just very, very grateful and humbled to be doing what I was doing. But my ego got control of me, and I thought I was limitless. I thought I could do anything, but that wasn't the truth. So my diagnosis came of acute myeloid leukemia, and my whole world just got shaken apart, and I had a huge identity crisis go on from that. Yeah.
How did it come about? How was when did you find out that this started to control your life in a way that you didn't want it to? How did you find out about it all?
So basically I was at home, and my body wasn't doing right for a very long time. I was deteriorating, and I'd stopped running, and I torn ligaments in my ankle for no reason, and my body was just doing strange things. I did this 130k bike race, and I collapsed halfway, and I willed myself to finish. That was my stern, stubborn personality there, and I finished, and I collapsed over the line. And then that week I just collapsed at the sink, and my brother picked me up at the sink and said, "Are you okay? You okay?" And rang up my auntie and said, "Take him up to the hospital." So I got taken up to the hospital, and then from that moment I got diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia, which, it wasn't really scary at the time, but I was more confused because my mum was crying hysterically, and I thought, what have I done to hurt my mum? What's going on? This was not good. So I was very confused in that part, what is this? And I needed to understand what was going on. So I got sent to Christchurch. I live in a small town on the west coast of the South Island of New Zealand. Got moved to a bigger city in Christchurch, to the South Island bone marrow unit, where I'd get my full diagnosis. And I ended up not being a good prognosis. I was in the poor category through different checks and tests they did. And I ended up having 7 months of chemotherapy. And I also had it in my central nervous system. So I was getting lumbar punches twice a week into my central nervous system with chemo as well. And I became isolated. I had this deep connection with nature where I could feel, this is where I felt my most fullest, when I was running with nature, with the wind, with the trees. You know what that's like, for me, that's full freedom. And I got put into an isolation room 6 weeks at a time having chemo, and then out for 1 week, and then back in for another 6 weeks. And it was like this for 7 months. So for me, and my whole body started deteriorating, mate. And you and I both know running's a great thing. You know, we understand what pain is, and, you know, but it's short-term pain for long-term gain. Now, I was in this isolation room, and it turned out to be long-term pain, no term gain. You know, there was nothing going on, and my whole body just deteriorated. My hair had fallen out. I was so skinny. I was weak. I struggled to walk, and I just couldn't resonate with the person who I was before. And then, as I said before, you know, I'd created this identity before that I could do anything, but now I could do nothing apart from just kind of, and I didn't take responsibility for myself, and I fell into the victimhood of, look at who I've become. I'm nothing. I'm weak. I'm pathetic. And I just looked at my physical self rather than going inside myself. And this is where true humility comes. You know, for me, it does. It's when you can't identify with who you are. You've made this idea of yourself, and all of a sudden you come into this crisis. And I wanted to take my life. You know, I got out for the week, and I got into this huge crisis of conflicted of who I was as a person. And I thought I wanted to take that person, but the person was still inside me. And I stood on this balcony mile, and I was about to take my life, and this bit of wind come and hit the side of my face, this right-hand side of my face, and I can still feel it now. And it turned me around, and I looked at my mum's cup of tea still sitting there, because she'd just gone out to go get the groceries. And, you know, I felt her love just hit me right in the chest, you know, and it just brought me back. You know, I couldn't put the pain I was feeling on top of my mum. You know, I couldn't do that to her. So I stood back and I just cried hysterically. You know, I had no hair, and I can still feel it now, bro. Like, I put my fingernails into my head, and I was just pulling at my head, just screaming like, fuck. And then I had to really, really dig into my chest of things to do. And I reached out for help and got a psychologist on board to understand what was going on. And this is when things really started to change for me. You know, I started to become more open and more aware. And it was basically his words that said, it's not you that wants to die. It's just the pain that needs to die, the pain, the situation. So I become more attentive I started reading a lot more, writing a lot more, and looking outside, looking for a transcendent truth, if you want, looking for something bigger than me to help me through this. So, and that was my inspiration, you know, and I visioned myself being in nature and running and all these things I loved again, but with a deeper appreciation and gratitude for who I was as a whole, physical and internal, you know. Yeah. So that was that first part.
Bro, that is, oh man, you say that you feel a punch to your heart. Hearing that again, brings up a lot of emotions. And I just want to say to you, like, you know, regardless of this podcast, obviously, like, this is you opening up again. And I just want you to know that, like, at any point after this conversation, like, you know, obviously you can reach out to me again, and it's totally void of any kind of podcast. And, you know, like, opening up this dialogue isn't easy. And I think that it's definitely not something I just want to, talk about for one day and then just not follow up on it. So just, yeah, bro, just like make sure you sing out when we can chat again after this, you know, session of recording. Yeah. But I hope you know that. But just to, yeah, bro, just to touch back on that, I want to know about the process of getting involved with a psychologist, and why that was such a pivotal point in your your relationship with what you were going through. Like, what was it that really happened in those moments and within that period of time on a practical level and everything else that it changed?
Basically, I was brought up in this hard, rough community where you don't show any weaknesses, you know, you be a tough man. And I identified with that. You know, I did everything myself. I don't ask for help. I can do it myself. A strong man, you know, that stereotype that a lot of young males live up to, you know, not asking for help. And then as I said before, I found my limits, that I did have to ask for help, and his help helped me become a better person. And without that, I wouldn't be alive today, I don't think, you know. Well, that's just one part of it. But, you know, putting my hand out and asking someone to pick me up was a big thing for me, because I did everything by myself before that. And that was a big turning point. And then I understood that when I started reading and all these different books and different persons' struggles, part of their journey too, I'd always have to ask for help. We can't do it alone. And I basically identify myself as an individual, part of a collective. I wasn't just the individual standing on the outside trying to struggle through this life myself.
Yeah, man, you were a phenomenal athlete, and I don't want to actually, I'm going to take that back and say that you still are a phenomenal athlete. I mean, some of the physical things that you do now is still freaking amazing, man, especially considering what you've had to go through, and I think you're a fucking shining example of someone who can put themselves through so much physical duress and treatment and still come out the other side. You get off your ass, you get off the couch and you go back to Fifth Element and you put down some bloody sessions and you lay those weights on that squat rack and you get to it. I mean, you don't have an excuse for not doing it, man. And I think that's incredible. So you are still a phenomenal athlete. I think what I'm referring to is, as you said before, you were a rising star in the sport of, say, the 800 meter discipline. And I guess that creates definitely this exterior story about who you are. And I want to understand a little bit more about how you managed to kind of, say, struggle and then regain a new sense of who you are from the inside out.
Yeah, well, it still took a long process. I mean, that was still the first diagnosis. So from then, once I got out, if we can carry on with the story, I got out of hospital after 7 months of chemo with a bit confused, and I didn't want to talk to anybody. I need to understand what just happened and where I was going, because I'd basically transformed a lot. I'd becoming a different person. So I needed to do new things for myself and live out my life that I needed to. So I just went into the surf once I got home, actually. I just went in surfing, and if there was no waves, I was just out in the sea, and I just prayed, I meditated and thought and just got myself back together. And a friend rang up and he said, "Do you want to go to Nepal?" And I laughed at him. I said, "No, you're joking, man. I'm just, I'm 6 weeks, 2 months out of hospital. No way." And I was out there one day and I just felt it inside me that I needed to go and do this, because this has been a childhood dream of mine, to go to Nepal and go up to Mount Everest Base Camp and see Mount Everest. And as Sarah and Hillary, the Kiwis, we were all identified with Mount Everest. So one day I just said, "Yeah, no, let's go." So I rang him up and said, "Yeah, man, let's go to Nepal." And sure enough, 4 months after my last round of chemo, here I was in Kathmandu airport, the most craziest circus I've ever seen. And, I seen these people suffering, man, like young kids in the gutter, people sleeping in the streets, rubbish everywhere. And as soon as I was getting my tuk-tuk back to my place where I was staying, I thought, man, how lucky were you to suffer in such good conditions, I had chemo and cancer and I was dying in a nice, soft hospital room with treatment, with my mum, with my family around me, with good food. And these people had nothing, man, but they still were smiling at me and waving at me. And I was just so humbled by their presence and what these people had, which wasn't much, but they had a beautiful smile. And I was just in awe of it, man. And it really changed my whole attitude to how great my appreciation and gratitude levels just went up significantly. And then I managed to meet up with my mate in there, and we flew to Lukla, and we trekked up to Everest Base Camp, and it was a beautiful moment, bro. Something that no one can take away from me. I set my mind to something and achieved it with a friend, and I saw the sunrise come over Mount Everest, and it was just a really beautiful moment that no one can take away. And walked that down with complete wholeness within myself, that if I died tomorrow, that's okay, So so that was a really game changer there for me, and a perspective change. And I decided to travel around Southeast Asia by myself and hitchhike around, and had a great time. I flew back to New Zealand, and my body was getting really much stronger, so I enrolled in this course called New Zealand Skydiving Course. It's commercial diploma in commercial skydiving, and it was the most freedom I'd felt in a very, very long time, jumping out of planes every day with some good mates I met there. But it was soon to be short-lived. So basically a year after I was in remission, I was diagnosed with leukemia again. I'd relapsed. But I was more grounded this time. I was more understanding, and I was grateful for what I had achieved in that time that I'd spent in that year away and doing what I loved and fulfilling my life, really, just living to what I needed to do. And I went into the hospital room, determined to do the best I can to get through what I could get through, but aware that I could die, and I was grateful for that if that did happen. So, yeah, that's, yeah.
How was that going through the action of receiving that news?
I was aware that I knew I was had cancer again. I had these, you get purple dots on your hand and skin when you have low platelets, and this happened to me beforehand, and I knew it. So I was trying to jump and skydive with my friends as much as I could before I went into the hospital for my annual test and things like that. So I actually got a hypoxic up in the air. We were jumping from 20,000 foot, and I jumped up with my mate, and I saw about 10 of them, and I was like, whoa, what's going on? I just had to get to 10,000 feet and just pull my parachute so I could get down. So my blood cells, my hemoglobin wasn't functioning properly, and I knew I had cancer again. So I was aware of it, and I was prepared for it. But the physicality of what was to unfold, I wasn't really prepared for it. I thought I'd suffered quite a lot from my first diagnosis, but the second time round was going to be horrendous. It's something that I can't put into words, but physically it was going to kill me. Yeah, so I went into the hospital thinking it was going to be similar, but this time I'd have to have a allogenic stem cell transplant, a bone marrow transplant. So allogenic means basically from somebody else. So I had 2 rounds of chemo, and the second round of chemo just kind of tore me apart, and I developed neutropenic sepsis. And I got put into the isolation room, intensive care, and got put into a coma. And the sepsis was basically killing me. And they told my mum and dad that, he's probably not going to wake up. This is, because no one who's neutropenic, I've got no leukocytes in my body to really fight this infection off, this bacteria off. So yeah, but I managed to wake up from this coma. God willing, I did. And I was weak and fragile, and I was skinny and I couldn't talk. I couldn't even walk. And in that process, from waking up from the coma, I had 10 days to get ready for this transplant. Now, the normal protocol after your last round of chemo is to have 2 months off so your body can recover to get ready for the transplant, because it's absolutely horrendous, the treatment that you go through. So I had 10 days from waking up out of a coma to have this transplant. Now, I didn't do much apart from just eat as much as I could, prayed as much as I could, meditated as much as I could, and breathed as much as I could. That's all I did. And I went and had my treatment, which enabled me. It had full body radiation. So I was in a box, and they just zapped me with radiation for a week. And then that was combined with high dose cytarabine, a chemotherapy that's highly toxic, and basically it kills your whole immune system. So when they give you this bone marrow, this new immune system from someone else, your stem cells come in and start regenerating and repopulating your whole white blood cell and red blood cell count. So basically the DNA structure of my cells would change, my blood type would change, and everything like that. So I had this transplant. It came from a young girl in Germany, so it was a bit of a mismatch. So I wasn't a perfect match. So the grafting process took quite a while. I developed graft versus host disease, which is basically the rejection of the graft, the bone marrow. And basically I was dying. I was in a semi-comatose state. I was on my bed, and I had 10 to 15 pumps on my frame next to me, just trying to keep me alive and putting everything my body needed into me. And I just sat there and looked out the window and just visualized where I wanted to be. Just really visualized myself being back up in the mountains, running, feeling the wind, just having nature around me. And because this is where I felt the most, where I felt the most alive. And I put myself in that position, and sure enough, after 2 months, the graft started balancing it out with the high dose of medication, the steroids and immunosuppressants that I was started balancing out the graft. And it started working a bit better, and my immune system was starting to grow and accept myself. So I was allowed out of the hospital for a bit, and but numerous complications unfolded. Now, basically, I spent a year back and forth to the hospital that year. You know, it was a whole year of with too many complications to really talk about. You know, everything could happen went wrong. So I was in and out of hospital for a year, and finally we got the medication right, and everything was kind of balancing out after about a year there, and I was allowed to kind of go home and try and recuperate the best I could.
Oh man, that's incredible. The thing is, Josh, I've heard this story, and I've listened to you recount this numerous times, and still it absolutely blows me away that you're one, so free to talk about it, and two, just like that you're here with us, man, and being not just here in body, but you're here with such a presence, you know, like you're here sharing this and being so like in a way so grateful for it. And I just think that's incredible, especially in this day and age where, you know, some people are really delusional about what they can and what they are grateful for, and also just dismissing a lot of the luxuries that we have in our day-to-day life.
Absolutely.
So before we go any further on the story, which again, man, just whenever you need to take time, then you take time. But you know, you said there that you were lying in a room, and you would look outside and you would visualize where you wanted to be. Mm-hmm. So how much does the concepts of, say, prayer, meditation, and visualization, where did that start for you? And how did you learn about that? And how important is that for you in your practice?
It's hugely important for me, bro. So I was always a big fan of visualization when I was running, you know. My coach, and that you picture the race beforehand and you visualize what you want to do and how it will unfold and things like that. And even when I was at school and stuff, I'd try to visualize what would unfold at school and prepare myself for what may unfold. But when I first fell into that deep depression and nearly took my life, you know, I started reading and I was looking for answers, and you know, that's when I picked up books like Man's Search for Meaning and learning about people like Viktor Frankl, who was locked up in the prisoner of war camp, and Alexander Solzhenitsyn, you know, a Russian fellow who got put up in the gulags in Russia and also had cancer, and people like that. But they always had, when they talked, they always had this higher faith, you know, about God and that. So I started reading the Bible, and these words and stuff really articulated to me, and understood that having this faith, this higher presence, then I knew I wasn't alone. And I understood that suffering was a part of life, and everyone goes through their own issues in life, and that's what the Bible and all these amazing philosophers talk about. Even Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic, you know, the Roman emperor, they always have this higher faith and I resonated with that, and I found that, and that really sustained me. That it became my responsibility to suffer as much as I could and keep walking the path that I needed to walk, and that's what I felt my responsibility was to do. So whatever unfolded, I'd have to do my best to walk that hill, you know, with the cross on my back, if you will, walk to the highest point and appreciate the things around me. Have a look, you know, things are good right now, but it's going to get harder. And that's how I see it now. And I know everybody's going through their own hard times, and whatever would unfold for me, I would prepare myself. And I've also do this thing called negative meditation. I wake up in the day and I say, what's the worst thing that could happen today? Now, there's numerous things, you know. My partner, my fiance, Sybil, may get cancer or pass away. I could get cancer again. So if anything less than that happens, then that's okay. You know, I can prepare myself for that. But having that mind, you know, you send a frequency through your body, and it sends a frequency through and it prepares yourself for what may unfold. So that's a massive, closing my eyes, praying, visualizing on what the day may unfold, visualizing on who I want to be every day. It's a massive part of my day, especially in the morning.
When we first met, you introduced me to the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Mm-hmm.
And you introduced me to, first and foremost, just who he was and how you had used some of his knowledge and practices in your day-to-day life. Is that where you have gained a lot of your understanding of having a thought, using that energy from within inside yourself to create a feeling and, create a future that you want through thought, feeling, and then taking that thinking to being to doing?
Yeah, I started, this was happened a bit later in the story where I found Dr. Joe Dispenza and things like that. And I do resonate with what he says. But for me, man, it's more about what God says in the Bible. That's where it really starts for me. I don't think we can fully prepare for what may unfold in our lives. We try to visualize it, but we never ever understand what will unfold. But all I know that there'll be good times and there'll be bad times, and we have to embrace both sides of that. And that's life. That is life. And some things we can't control, and we can only control the things that we can. And it's best to choose what we can control in the moment. And how we went back to it is just giving someone a smile, making the thought of being the best person that you can be today, whatever that may be for you. And I'm not telling everyone to believe in God or anything like that. That's just my opinion. That's just what I've been through, and that's just what I've found, that there is a transcendent truth out there. And for me to isolate that and make up my own truth, well, that didn't work. That didn't work when I was running and being that boy beforehand. And now I feel better that I have this faith, and I can go about my day knowing that I'm protected, that I'm okay, and that whatever may unfold, I have the best person to help me mitigate that. So, I kind of gone away from Joe Dispenza. What he does is fantastic, but I don't fully resonate with what he says and stuff. But there's some great words and great things that people can take from that. You can take something good from anything. And I've got a lot of tools in the toolbox. I've looked at a lot of different people, done a lot of different things, and I've found what works for me now. And more things will come, and I'll look for that too. Yeah.
Yeah, and I hope you understand as well, man, that you are a tool in a lot of people's toolboxes. I mean,
I hope so too, man, because I read a lot of stories, I read a lot of books, and a lot of people in Auschwitz, a lot of people in World War II, a lot of people who suffered, man, and they went through horrendous acts, more than me. And their stories helped me to be the person I am. We can even talk about Lance Armstrong. He was an inspiration to me. He got back on the bike, and I take my hat off. The only thing I didn't like was the fact that he blatantly lied to people. But that's not what I believe in or anything like that. But stories are amazing. My first movie I ever went to the movies to watch was Lion King. How Simba takes back the pride. And you feel it. You read these stories and we resonate with it. And you can talk about Joe Dispenza's frequency there, because there is a frequency there, man. We resonate to these stories. And if my story can help anyone, then that's good. That's a good thing. And that's me being responsible for my suffering, is to help other people through theirs. And I think that's where it starts, bro. We need to help one another, because life's hard. Life's terribly hard. And we've been indoctrinated into certain society, how we should live, with media and TV and stuff like that. And to me, that's just bullshit, and I don't buy into that. So I just buy into who I am. And if anyone wants to listen or read my book or just be around me, then I want to help them be a better person or just have a better experience from their day or for their life, and that's what my story is about, and if I leave this life and people have become better or felt more freer within themselves, then that's good, that's good. And it makes me emotional, man, it does, because when you overcome something hard, that's the most fulfilling thing that you can experience. When the mind says no, but you say go and you overcome it, jeepers, bro, that's good. I have no other words for it than it's really, really good. Yeah, man.
It is, bro. It is that, it's so amazing as well, like that so many people actively avoid being uncomfortable in this day and age, despite the fact that there is a simple equation out there that stress plus rest equals growth. And you can apply that to, you can apply that to physical training in something like running or any other sport, but you can also apply that to life. And I think, coming back to the goodness of cold water, it's a eustress. It's something that once we include that into our life, it's not just the physical discomfort that we're subjected to that then has a really positive effect. It's such a mental circus to work through, facing that cold water and then and being okay to get involved with it. The Wind at My Back is the title of your book, and I guess it's incredible. I highly encourage anyone to read it. It's so incredible that you put what you experienced down into words, into a book, because that process must have been a big challenge in itself. But what motivated you to go about, putting it into a story for people to look at?
It's basically maybe what I articulated before, that stories help me so much. So if my story could help others, then that's great. But the main motivator was the fact that if I did die, then my nephews and nieces, or they could read about their uncle, from my brother and sister, and maybe they could get some tools from me without me talking to them or being there, from my book. But that was basically the driver. That was the main catalyst for that. My family.
Man, I'm so and again, I'm grateful that you've decided to take the time and energy to create that, and then also like have this conversation today. Should
we get to the point where we met?
Bro, please continue on with the conversation. Absolutely. The story, please continue on with no,
it's all good. Yeah, because we're about halfway. I mean, it's such a long story. It's about 10 years to kind of unfold. So, after that second diagnosis, we got through it back and forth out of the hospital. I got home and I was really confused and isolated and mild depressed, I would say. So I moved up to Nelson, which is up in the top of the South Island there, and just walked on the beach and just did small things to try and regenerate my energy and physical self and mental self and spiritual self, and went through the processes up there. And then had a girlfriend at the time. And
so what were those processes, mate? Like what are the things that you did?
Sleep. Number one is sleep. It's the most underrated tool that we've got, bro. Lots of sleep, lots of food. I didn't really understand nutrition back then, and that was about to change, but I ate as much vegetables and good food that I knew of then. But I'd given up drinking and all that a long time ago. So, and I just basically walked, just what I talked about before. I prayed, meditated, visualized, read books, and just did little simple things and just enjoyed the time that I had outside. Took my shoes off, walked along the beach and just closed my eyes, and just nice simple things. It was just only small things, bro. It wasn't anything exciting or anything, but that was fulfilling to me, being locked up in a little isolation room for over a year, So
I think that says a lot though, man. Like the simple things are fucking powerful, and
they are, bro. And maybe we can talk about, just while we're talking about that isolation, people are stressing about themselves being locked up in this COVID-19, man. I want to tell people you're not in isolation right now. You can go outside and feel the wind and look at nature and take off your shoes and do a lot of things around your own little area outside. I was locked up with tubes down my throat in a little 3x3 room, and getting fed through a tube and stuff like that. So for anyone who wants a perspective, because I'm hearing a lot of whinging and moaning and things about, this isolation sucks. Well, there's a lot of things you can do. There's lots of books to read. You can go outside and just feel nature around you and things like that. So this COVID-19 crisis is just the fear created inside your head. Let that go outside, breathe some air and enjoy what you've got around you.
I want to pump that through a fucking megaphone, mate. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
100% support.
So I was up. We'll go back. I was up in Nelson and got myself right, and then my donor actually got in hold of me. So I thought I'd go over and see her in Germany. And this is about maybe 18 months after the transplant, and I was getting myself back together. And I thought, yeah, no, sweet. So I went over to Germany and I met her, and it was just the most amazing experience. It felt like I was looking at a replica of myself. And it was in the winter there too, and we had a nice time, and she was just an amazing, humble, grounded lady, you know, and I couldn't even speak to her. Thank you didn't justify what I was trying to say. And I spent the day with her and understood who she was, and you know, I was just so grateful that this kind young girl donated her stem cells to me, and you know, we become kind of together in a way. And I flew back, or I didn't fly back actually. I got quite sick over in Germany. I developed pneumonia, so I got put up in the Berlin hospital there for a week. You know, I struggled there, and I had to get flown back to New Zealand. Now I come back angry that I couldn't really do what I wanted to do, and I was a bit depressed and things like that. So I tried to regain my strength again, and I was back home on the West Coast, and I worked away and started going to the gym and started changing my life a bit, but still to no avail. My body was just deteriorating and deteriorating. My GVHD that I talked about earlier, this graft mismatch, just started flaring up, you know. So the normal treatment of immunosuppressants and steroids really wasn't suffice. It wasn't really doing its job. So my body was just getting hammered, I suppose. And my whole skin and fascia and all that was getting glued up. So I was struggling to walk, and it was basically attacking the epithelial cells. And that was restricting my movement, my eyes, my mouth, and my gut lining and things like that. And yeah, what happened after that? So I developed, shivers, I forgot about that. So during this process, I developed like shingles, man, and it turned into trigeminal neuralgia, and I got sent in the hospital for 3 months. Now, trigeminal neuralgia is known as the suicide disease. It's described as the worst pain known to man. And fuck me, man, it was fucking horrendous. Like, I thought I'd been through pain beforehand, and this pain, if I can describe it to the listeners, was like someone was burning my eye while stabbing my head while chucking a bit of glass down my cheek. It was just phenomenal. I don't think the human body could experience it. And I was just screaming back in my isolation room in Christchurch with this pain. And it was all because, you know, I was on these immunosuppressants and they were high dose, and the graft-versus-host disease had flared up, and so much was going on, and this pain was just phenomenal. And it went on for 3 months, and finally they put me up in the intensive care unit to give me these lignocaine infusions. Now, lignocaine's a high-dose anesthetic, and I had to get put up in the isolation room in case it stopped my heart. And far out, God willing, man, like it numbed the nerve, and it's finally reduced the pain. I've got still a little bit of numbness on side of my left-hand side of my cheek here, but you know, it's totally fine to where it was. And that was probably the most physical, torturous pain I've ever suffered.
Oh man, I remember you saying that when we were at your book launch, and it still just fills me with such like an uncomfortable feeling. I do not know how you went through that and came out the other side, man. Like, yeah, dude.
The only way to overcome pain is to bear it, bro. That's the only way you can overcome pain, is to bear it, embrace it. And that's what I tried to do as much as I could. Told the pain when it came, it told me that I was still alive. I was still fighting. So when it came, it told me that I was truly alive, because I was screaming, I was grabbing my hands. And to me, this was as crazy as it sounds. This was me still fucking living, still fighting. And I was fighting for my life, you know, and I tried to change it into a positive, because you had to feel the pain, embrace the pain, and try and bear it as much as you can, because to me, that's what life's about. As we said before, being comfortable in the uncomfortable. And I was trying to change my mind that feeling this pain was good because you're still alive, if that makes sense.
Right. That 100% makes sense. Like, and for you to be able to be aware of that and conscious to do that in such an intense situation, it's like you're fucking Superman. Like that's next level. You know,
it's just a perspective, but it just comes to that perspective of the mind, you know. Like it was torturous, man. It was, but like people have been through a lot worse, man. A lot worse than that. And like I said, I was in the hospital. I had a good care around me, and the pain came, and I could hold on to someone's hand and things like that. And you know, having that frequency from my mother or someone there holding my hand, man, was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. And I still had that, I still had that love for the life that I lived before. And that's what I sustained myself to. So once everything kind of flared up, we got it under control. This GVHD that I talked about, this graft-versus-host disease, was just absolutely killing me. So I had to get sent to your hometown, bro, Melbourne, to get some treatment.
What? Like a true hipster, man.
Yeah, like a true hipster. Yeah, so unfortunately in New Zealand we don't have this treatment because there's only a small minority of get the severe GVHD like myself, or even get GVHD in the first place. There's not many people have this type of transplant. And there were 2 other Kiwis at the time flying back and forth, and they were great people to meet and talk our way through it. But this treatment was called extracorporeal photopheresis. So basically it's a similar process to dialysis, but it's trying to upregulate the healthy T cells and downregulate the disease T cells, if you will, the bad T cells that were attacking my body, to try and make a self-management program from that. So basically they'll draw out the blood, put it in a bag, treat it, then put it under ultraviolet light, then put it back into me, and that would try to upregulate the process there. And so it was in Melbourne. Yeah, it was 1st of April I moved to Melbourne, and I started having issues with my chest. And I was walking around uncomfortable with my chest. But in this time too, this is how I found about Wim Hof that we talked about earlier. And I was in a deep depressed state in Melbourne, and I really need something to help me externally. I really need to put my hand up and take full responsibility of my full health, because my mind was going back and forth, and I was still kept getting all these problems, man, and I wanted to just be free of it. I just really wanted to be free of it. So I started looking at every avenue I could. I was really open to whatever may unfolded for me, and this friend suggested Wim Hof. And yeah, I was doing his 10-week course, and I had my first cold shower, man, and it was just phenomenal. I actually felt good, like really good inside myself for that brief moment. And I thought, holy shivers, what's going on here? And it really changed my perspective, and I really delved into it, started doing the breathing and things like that. And then Wim was actually in Melbourne at that time, and I thought, I'm going to go and have a chat. And he was down at Fed Square, and I walked down, and he just had this energy about him, man, that was just incredible, bro. It was just phenomenal. And I thought, wow, I'd love to be like that if I get through this. And he had a 3-day course or retreat there. So I signed up for that, and I was so excited about it. But as I said before, I was having this niggling pain in my chest, and the doctors doing all these tests, they couldn't find out what was going on. And so I went to the retreat, and this is kind of where another process kind of unfolded to me. I was excited. We all met in the evening and had a chat, and I was excited to really get amongst it, meet these like-minded people who are seeking for more. And I woke up in the morning, and I had this massive heart attack. And I just could not believe it. I didn't go into cardiac arrest. It was just a restricting of the arteries. I was still getting some minimal blood flow to my heart, but I didn't go into cardiac arrest. I was just having this heart attack, and I couldn't get out of bed. And I was just suffering there, grabbed my chest, and I asked for help. And Guy Lawrence, if you know Guy Lawrence, he was the one who come and helped me and put his hand on my left-hand side of my shoulder and said, it's okay, we'll get the ambulance. So I was taken to the ambulance, taken to Geelong Hospital, into the Royal Melbourne, to Peter McCullum Cancer Centre where I was treated, then to the Royal Melbourne Cardiac Unit where I sat there, and I probably had another dozen heart attacks before they did something with me, because they weren't too sure what to do with me, whether to stent the main artery or give me a heart bypass. So I had a dozen heart attacks in there until they finally stented my main artery, and finally I was all clear of these heart attacks that were going on. I was just turning the ECGs upside down, and it was just a phenomenal time. I didn't know what was going on. I actually wrote a letter to the doctor to just make a decision. I don't care what you do, if I die or not, just make a decision, and maybe you can learn from it, from a patient like myself with this graft-versus-host disease. So yeah, he ended up stenting it, and here I am.
Oh, man. And throughout that, like you said, you just kept having these problems and knockbacks and setbacks. And, who did you call upon during these times? Like, who was your avenue?
Big fella upstairs and my mum, my family. That was my avenue. Like I really, really wanted to just die. I really did. But there was a part of me that I couldn't, I just couldn't. I just didn't want to. But I really just wanted to go. I just had enough. But something bigger than me told me to sustain myself and stay here. And I held on to that love from my mum, from my family, that pure, abundant love, and that's something that's just so powerful, Mile. It really is. And I held on to that, closed my eyes and just embraced it so much and just try to hold on to it as much as I could, despite of how depressed I was, and how much I didn't want to be here anymore. But as again, this was life. This was suffering. I had to go back to those stories that I've read and what I was still reading, and really hold on to that someday this will pass. Someday this will pass. Yes, it will pass. Just keep going, keep persevering. Just have that mantra in your head. And soon enough, I messaged Guy Lawrence after I got out, and I said, "Just thank you very much. I'm okay, and thanks for ringing the ambulance." And he said, "Oh, no worries. I'm glad you're okay. Here's a podcast of the retreat." Now, this was just a huge game changer. The guy he was talking to was called Dave O'Brien, and he owns this place called Fifth Element Wellness as well. I think you've worked there, haven't you?
Yeah. I mean, This is like a whole side story to me meeting you and everything. But yeah, I did my personal training shadowing there when I was doing my personal training certificate. I went there and also with another friend, Matthew Dohe, here in Melbourne. But yeah, that's a whole nother story, and just like crazy coincidence of the universe, unreal. But yeah, mate, please continue.
Yeah, so I listened to the podcast, seen he was talking to Dave O'Brien, who had this holistic health place, and whereabouts in Fitzroy? Is it in Fitzroy or Brunswick?
Yeah, North Fitzroy, I think. Yeah,
North Fitzroy. Yeah, Dave O'Brien, and he was, the way he articulated his words. He was talking about neutrophils, eosinophils, basophils, all these things that I could resonate with the science from, and he was speaking my language. So I really had to go see this man and see what it was all about. And it was not just a personal training place, man. It was just a whole life transformation place. We sat down and he talked to me for 2 hours straight about what he does and what this place is about, and just give me so much tools. It was all like the gut health, the immune health. He just revamped my lifestyle, just changed what I ate, changed how I basically lived, and just flooded my body with nutrients, and like my body just started to heal inside out, and it enabled my treatment to work better. Everything's just started, my mental health, I was becoming more clearer. I was becoming back to that old self I used to be. My pain levels were decreasing, and I've been in Melbourne back and forth now for 4 years doing this treatment, and I always go and see Dave and reevaluate what's going on. And I'm so grateful that I found this place, and I think that was a message from the big fella upstairs sending me to this place to help me heal, and that's the perseverance that we have. Something good will come, and something even better unfolded from Fifth Element with that once I got more mental clarity inside my head, and I keep going forward. But yeah, he revamped my eating, supplements, cold therapy, hot therapy, exercise regime, and then my personal coach, Anthony Messino, he become like one of my best mates now. He's just an amazing man, and we've done great meditations together. We talk on a deeper level, and, it's just so much goodness has come out of this place.
Yeah, I'm pretty speechless right now. Sorry, man. But Fifth Element Wellness in Melbourne is, without a doubt in my mind, the greatest place anyone can go to, any human being can go to for greater direction on becoming healthier as a human being. It is, and I can't articulate how incredible that place is and what they pride themselves on doing.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
And what Dave in his protocols and everything like that, and how stringent he is with everything. It's tough, man. If you want to go in there, it is tough and it is hard. But if you want to change your whole lifestyle and become a better physical human, man, go put your hand up. Go there. It's just amazing what Dave and the team have got going on down there.
It is. And, you can take our word for it. It changed your life. I remember you saying, like, even when I went there and did my, like, I just was in that gym for like day after day, just kind of being around some of the trainers and just seeing what it was all about. It's sorry to even call it a gym. It's not a gym. It's
not a gym. No.
Oh, mate, it's not even, it's like no other facility in that I've ever seen. And I've been to a lot of places, and it is, I don't even know how to describe it, but what Dave and his team are doing there, I mean, just go look at their website and look at how many awards they've won for being innovative in the whole health and wellness space. It's incredible. And when I first went there, it was, largely about, the diet, the training, and how that all came together. And what absolutely ticked the final box for me was when I started to see them and Dave and his team bring in cold therapy, community ice baths, and the practice of things like meditation. And they brought that in, a few years ago now, and I'm just like, now they're like absolutely, world leading. And to have it here in Melbourne, it's just phenomenal. And it's so good that you were able to be exposed to that and get access to that for the, to allow you to now be the man you are.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Like I'm so fortunate to have so many good people here in Greymouth that I've grown up with. I've got amazing people, and every kind of part where I've been to throughout my story, I've just had great people. And Fifth Element's a replica of just good people that really want to help you. I've found some of my best mates there now, like Dave and Anthony, my trainer, and our mate too, Mark Clure. He was the first man I met going through that door. He picked me up and I didn't even know him, and he just picked me up and he goes, "Joshy, mate, how are you?" And he's become one of my best mates now, and what he's doing too, mate, is just, it's so infectious and it's so inspiring. It's just so humbling to be around these amazing people that just want goodness for other people. And we've all got different beliefs and how we go about things. But at the end of the day, the thing that brings us together is that we want to help one another. We want to help other people, and we want to break down that fear that we all live in and just be better, stronger people. And, you and I know Mark's probably the leader at that. He's just an amazing man.
Yeah, he's unreal. And it's, I'm glad you brought up Mark, because, when we were at your book launch at Fifth Element, in the yoga studio there, it was Mark that I was standing next to, and he's just there. The most from appearances, the most blokiest bloke ever. He was a builder. He was all of that. The most typical, stereotypical Aussie bloke you could imagine. And he's there fucking crying his eyes out, and I'm just fucking my arm around him, giving him a hug, but holding back tears until I couldn't do it any further. And there you are, just pouring out your story from the heart, and we're all just, but I think the thing is like, it's all well and good, but we feel safe and okay to do that, show our emotions. It's not like, I'm trying to hold back. It's like, no, it doesn't, these things are there for a reason. We do have emotions, and we have fucking,
and we should feel that free space to be able to express that, man. When I was first diagnosed, because I was still in that transition phase of being that hard man and men don't cry, I used to lock myself in the toilet door where the nurses and that couldn't see me and just cry, and then I'd get back up and pretend nothing's wrong. But now it's like I start crying when I see someone overcome something or tell me something, or even an email saying, "Thank you for sharing your story." It feels so good, and I just cry, and I hug people and I say thank you. It's the most rewarding human experiences you can feel, and to be able to let someone express that, it's just amazing.
Yeah, we deny ourselves a sense of living when we don't fully embrace the emotions that we go through.
Exactly, because they're a part of us, man. And you nailed it on the head. We deny ourselves a full experience of living. It's denying those emotions. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Similar to getting in the cold, mate. We're denying ourselves that sense of, woo! Like, shit, this is fucking uncomfortable, but this is living, Yeah.
I mean, I remember when I had my first proper ice bath at Mark Clure's house. I got it. I was surrounded by these big, bulky men with just breathe, Joshy, breathe. And, the skinny kind of cancer patient, if you will, in the bath, and I was in there, just closed my eyes and I breathed through it for 5 minutes in there at 2 degrees, and then I got out, and you know what, man, Mark Floyd had this hallway up his house, and I started running. You know, it was only 30 meters, but I ran for the first time in like 7 years. It was just incredible, and like,
Man.
I had this massive smile on my face, and everything was changing within me, man. It was just changing, you know, the frequency within myself. Maybe it was the people around me. I don't know. That would have been a contributing factor, but whatever unfolded from hearing that podcast, going to Fifth Element, meeting these people, eating the food that I eat, taking the supplements that I do, and even just having a chat to you that day, you know, there was just so much goodness going on, bro. It was just phenomenal. And then, you know, and from that, my mind became clear. And then on one trip to Melbourne, I sat next to this pretty Swiss girl and I said hello to her. And now we're engaged, bro. She lives here with me here. We've been together for the past 3 years, you know, and that's the silver lining, man. You know, I persevered through all that, and now I've got like the golden egg, if you will, Sybil, man. She's changed my life more than Fifth Element have, more than anybody has. What she's given me is such a presence, it's such gratitude to be with her and share my life with her, you know, and I'm so grateful to have found her on a plane to Melbourne.
So, you know, you are, you know, that, I think that, you know, that's a manifestation of the internal environment that you've been able to create. And I think you are that to so many other people. I'm sure she would say the same about you. And, you know, what you said before about going down to Fed Square in Melbourne and meeting Wim Hof and the energy that he gave off to you that day. Mm-hmm. I just want to say that, like, and you said that you wanted to become that. Well, bro, you are more than that. I've met Wim and I've been in his presence. And I tell you what, like, you have been able to embody that and be more than that in this life. And I think that, you know, just, I hope that me saying this is just feeds into the belief that you are that, you know, because, yeah, dude, it's incredible to hear your story. But it's just, what's more incredible is to see that you still live it day in and day out. Like you are, yeah, it's just like, you're someone that everyone can benefit from. And it breaks my heart to listen to the story in so many ways, because, you know, you've had to endure that. You've had to go through it, but it's not at a loss, you know, like what you've been able to then go on and do and write a book and be open with your story. And, you know, just, I know that everyone who knows you has the same opinion, you know, and it's having people like you in this world that will change the way the world views things, and it will go a long way to making this whole world a better place. There's absolutely no doubt about it, man. Absolutely no doubt.
Well, that's the goal, to make this world a better place. And my story can, and what you do with your podcast and resonate with what you do, Maya, I think it goes both ways, my friend. You know, and we come together for a mutual friend called Ruth, who's another person who shares that as well, you know, and she embodies that, and, you know, and we all connect in this circle of life, bro, and it's a beautiful thing, man. But no, I'm just grateful to be here. I'm grateful to be alive, and I'm grateful for every individual that I've met in my life, because everyone, whether it be negative or positive, has had a positive impact on me, and I've chosen to take it the way I need to take it. And it's like, call myself a thief sometimes, you know, I'm stealing something from everybody now and then to make it me. And that's what we should be doing, bro, you know. Yeah, I'm just grateful to be alive, bro, and I'm here to help people, and so many people have helped me, because I'm not here. I didn't do this by myself. I didn't get here by myself whatsoever. And our mutual friend Ruth Croft, you know, she had a big part to play in that as well. You know, she was always on the end of a phone to talk to me, and you know, I am so fortunate to have the people in my life that have helped me to be here today, bro. And you know, without the people, we're nothing, you know.
100%, man. And I think, you know, everyone does have, you know, I want to say everyone does have that access to that network. And I hesitate a little bit because, you know, everyone's situation is different for sure. But I feel like for the large part, a lot of people have access to that kind of a network. But there's a huge missed opportunity there because we are so guarded, and so we protect ourselves from being emotional and allowing ourselves to be vulnerable, that we miss out on a lot of access to other people's learnings and vulnerabilities and the power that can give us. And I feel like, you know, maybe hopefully that hearing your story and the power that vulnerability has and the power that being grateful has allows people to open up a little bit more to their close network and be okay with, you know, being human, man.
100%. I mean, understanding your vulnerability, but that's when real growth happens in a person, because you can only go forward or up with whatever way you go. You've broken it down, it's shattered there, it's glass pieces everywhere. It's just about putting those pieces back together and allowing to people see those cracks inside of you. And once you do that, someone else will give you something, someone else will give you something, and soon enough the crack, it will never be the same. Like the cracks will be there. It's like building up a vase again, a cracked vase, and putting the pieces. You always see these cracks, but they're the cracks that have made you who you are. I mean, my whole physical appearance has changed through this GVHD, my pigmentation and that. But that defines who I am. It's my past. It's me. It's where I've been. It's who I am. And I embrace that, you know. And whatever perfect is, I don't know. It doesn't exist. I'm not looking for perfection. I'm just looking to be me. That's all I want to be. And know that I go to bed at night knowing that I've tried my utmost best to be the best person that I could be. And that's all I can do, you know. Whether I be the fastest runner or whatever, who cares? It's just being that sole purpose inside yourself, that feeling of goodness that you've tried to do your best today, you know?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And, you know, Joshy, I hope you never become perfect, because you won't be able to relate to anyone, mate.
No, man, I'm far from perfect, bro. I've still got learnings, man. Sybil's telling me off all the time for my imperfections, brother. So she's keeping me in line, man. She's a fantastic person. I just got to tell you this the other day, man. Sybil and I, because of this COVID, we can go for a walk and that. And I've actually just started doing a little bit of jogging, maybe 700 meters. And then we had this steer race. And she'd take off and I'd just be in front of her and she'd always beat me at the top of the hill. So, man, she's keeping me in check, man. She's keeping me in check. She's got the upper hand, eh?
Awesome, mate. Are you still doing your community ice baths over on the West Coast?
Yeah, we've been doing a few now and then, but obviously with this COVID-19 lockdown and me going back and forth to Melbourne a bit's kind of made that, you know, not happen so much. So hopefully once it's all down, we can get another one ramped up. But we've got a nice creek out the back of home there, so we can sneak up to while this lockdown's going on and jump in there. It's just such a great school, bro. It's fantastic. I encourage anyone to get into the cold shower, get into the cold river, jump in the ice, start breathing, check out the Wim Hof method, and let everything unfold the way it should, not the way you want.
Is there anything else you'd recommend people to explore?
Yeah, man, I just think books. I mean, maybe for me, a transcendent faith, you know, maybe looking at books and different people's opinions about maybe God, whatever you want, something bigger than yourself. I think that's a powerful tool, having a faith within yourself. I think that's very powerful, and that's what's really, really helped me a lot.
Well, man, I mean, if somebody listens to this and doesn't take anything away from it, I am absolutely dumbfounded, because you were diagnosed back in, was it 2011?
2011, yeah. So that's roughly 9 years ago.
Yeah. Well, bro, I cannot wait to have a 10-year celebration of the
I'm celebrating every day, man. I celebrate every day. It's a privilege to be here, to be able to suffer, to endure, to overcome, and have that small perfect moments that unfold from that, and then embrace them and then go forward again. That's what it's about for me. So keep climbing the hill, brother. Keep doing what you do. Keep smiling, and keep sharing that positive light, man. And embrace the negative too. Please
do the same. And I know that you will. You're you're absolutely one of those people that talks a talk and then goes out there and walks a walk. There's no difference in that. And that's a beautiful example that I'm super grateful for.
There's just a quote from the Bible that I really hold on to. It's in John. It's let us love not in word or speech, but in truth and action. So that's where I really hold myself, in truth and action. So we can talk all we want, but we need to lead by truth and action.
Well, man, that's something we should all just note down and start to take from understanding to believing, and then to, yeah, like you say, put into action. Yeah. Hey, brother, fucking thank you for your time. And
good to chat again, bro.
Yeah. Oh, mate, it always is. Hey, bro, thanks for sharing your story. You're a man that's just going from leaps to bounds, and I'm so grateful to know you and really appreciate just everything you've been through and your willingness to share it.
No, you too, bro. No, it's been fantastic, and thanks for getting me on, man.
Oh, mate, I hope this encourages conversation, and if it doesn't, then yeah, well, that's okay too. As long as you just keep doing what you're doing, man, I appreciate it.
That's it, man. All right, brother. Thank you.
So there you have it, guys. That is Josh Komen, and as we mentioned in the podcast, he has his book out, The Wind at My Back. It's an incredible journey worth listening to and also worth reading. So if you want and if you can, please go out and support Josh and grab his book. I think currently it's the number one best-selling book in New Zealand, and it goes into even more detail than what we were able to in the podcast, and it's again even more moving. And I'm sure you know what I mean by now when I say that about Josh's journey, and also just about Josh himself, the beautiful person that no doubt everyone has a little bit more appreciation and love for in this world. So again, like I mentioned, if you know someone that will definitely have the ability to listen to this conversation, and especially in the times we are in now and with the world the way it is, please share it with them. Please sit down and listen to it with them, and yeah, just give it some love, because I believe that what Josh is putting out there to the world is incredibly valuable. And like I've said before, I have so much respect and so much appreciation and gratitude to know Josh and to know about his journey. So please let us know what you think. Please let us listen to your thoughts on this, because that is also a huge part of this podcast. We want to encourage conversation. We want to maintain the art of conversation, because conversation is a beautiful thing. We can all learn a lot from each other, and we all learn how to just appreciate that human connection every time we have a conversation, for the good and the bad reasons. But as you've heard, today was definitely one of the good ones. So thanks again, Josh. Please have a look at Josh's book. Go check out Josh's website. And Josh, thank you again for being who you are, for being as strong as you are, for showing as much love as you do. And I wish you all the best, my brother. You're a very good person for us to have in this world and in this lifetime. So that's it for another episode of Stokely. I'm going to keep working on those intros. We're going to keep working on those conversations. And if you can help us share that energy and keep maintaining the art of conversation, then we will be absolutely wrapped. So please follow up, send Josh some love, and we look forward to hearing from you all soon. Take care now. Take it easy. Peace.